Marvel taught us to love Loki, the charming anti-hero, the trickster god who, deep down, just wanted his father's approval and his brother's respect. But the truth Disney and Marvel never told you is far more disturbing. The real Loki isn't looking for redemption. He's looking for the end of everything. And the strangest part is that the gods helped build that ending with their own hands. Every wonder Loki ever gave them, every treasure, every miracle, was also a debt-collecting interest. And when it finally came due, nothing in the 9 worlds could stop what he'd become. In this episode of Temple of Mysteries, we're going back to the source, not the Marvel version, not the sanitized myths retold for children. The original sagas, the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, and what they actually say about the god who ends the world. In the movies, Loki is Odin's adopted son, a foundling picked up on a battlefield in Jotunheim. It's a clean story, a convenient one. It gives Loki a wound Marvel can heal with a hug. The real myths tell something far stranger. Loki was never adopted in any formal sense the sagas describe. He's a Jotun by blood, son of the giant Farborti and a mother named Loki, and he lives among the gods not because Odin rescued him, but because Odin bound himself to him. The sagas describe Loki and Odin as blood brothers, a pact sealed by mixing their blood together, sacred enough that Odin swore an oath. He would never drink at a feast unless Loki was seated beside him. Sit with that for a second. This wasn't a stray god Asgard took pity on. This was a being Odin chose, deliberately, to bind himself to, by blood, by oath, by law that even the All-Father himself couldn't break. And that single detail changes everything that follows. Every betrayal Loki commits isn't the act of an outsider clawing for acceptance he was never going to get. It's the act of a brother breaking an oath sealed in his own blood against another brother who swore to never abandon him. Here's what makes Loki more dangerous than any villain Marvel has written. For most of the myths, he isn't the enemy. He's the reason Asgard has anything worth defending at all. Take Sleipnir, Odin's 8-legged horse, the fastest creature in all the 9 worlds. The story of his birth is one the myths tell with almost no embarrassment, and Marvel has never touched it. A builder came to Asgard disguised as a mortal, offering to raise a wall strong enough to keep out giants and monsters forever, in exchange for the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freyja as his wife. The gods, certain the deadline was impossible, agreed. Only for the builder's horse, Svadilfari, to work at superhuman speed, threatening to finish the wall in time. Panicked, the gods turned to Loki, the one who talked them into the bet in the first place. So Loki transformed himself into a mare and lured Svadilfari away from his work long enough for the deadline to be missed. The builder, revealed to be a giant in disguise, was killed by Thor for the deception. And months later, Loki returned to Asgard, in his own words, having given birth to a grey, 8-legged foal. Sleipnir, the horse Odin rides to this day. Read that again. Loki, a male god, shapeshifted into a female horse, mated with a stallion, and gave birth. Marvel gives Loki illusions and knives. The myths gave him a body that could become anything, and a willingness to use it in ways no other god in the pantheon would ever consider. Then there's Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, the single most iconic weapon in Norse mythology. Exists because of Loki, and almost didn't exist because of him either. In one telling, Loki cuts off the golden hair of Thor's wife, Sif, as a prank, humiliating her in front of the other gods. To avoid Thor's fury, Loki bets his own head with a group of dwarven craftsmen that they can't forge treasures more magnificent than what other dwarves could make. It's how Mjolnir gets forged in the first place, along with Odin's ring Draupnir and Freya's golden boar. But partway through the forging, Loki, realizing he might actually lose the bet and his head along with it, transforms into a fly and bites the smith working the bellows, disrupting his rhythm just enough to shorten the hammer's handle. It's the reason Mjolnir, to this day, can only ever be swung one-handed. When the dwarves came to collect on the bet, Loki's head, he talked his way out of losing it on a technicality. They could take his head, he argued, but the deal never said anything about his neck. So instead, they sewed his lips shut. This is the pattern the movies erase entirely. Every gift the gods treasure most, Sleipnir, Mjolnir, even the wall that protects Asgard, exists because of a lie, a bet, or a sabotage that Loki started. He isn't a villain interrupting the story of the gods. He's woven into the foundation of everything they have. Marvel gave Loki a clean family tree. The myths give him a nightmare. With the giantess Angabotha, Loki fathered 3 children the gods feared enough to imprison before they were even fully grown. Fenrir, a wolf that grew so quickly and so monstrously that a prophecy named him as the one destined to devour Odin himself at the end of the world. Jörmungandr, the world serpent, a creature the gods cast into the ocean surrounding Midgard, where it grew so large it now encircles the entire world, biting its own tail. And Hel, in the myths, not Loki's adopted sister as the films show her, but his own daughter, given dominion over the realm of the dishonored dead. The gods didn't wait to find out what these children would become. Odin himself ordered Fenrir bound, using a magical ribbon forged by dwarves from impossible things. The sound of a cat's footsteps, a woman's beard, a mountain's roots, a fish's breath. When Fenrir grew suspicious and demanded a god place a hand in his mouth as a show of good faith, only Tyr was brave enough to agree. And when the binding held, Fenrir bit down, taking Tyr's hand as the price of the god's deception. Jörmungandr was hurled into the sea. Hel was cast down into the underworld to rule over those who die of sickness and old age rather than in battle. Every one of these choices, sealed before the children could even choose a side, was made by the same gods who once swore blood oaths of loyalty to their father. Loki watched them condemn his children to imprisonment, exile, and the underworld out of nothing but fear of a prophecy. That's not a footnote in this story. That's a motive. There's a poem in the Poetic Edda called the Lokasana, the flighting of Loki, and it might be the single most damning document about the Norse gods that survives from antiquity. The story goes like this. Loki, uninvited and unwelcome, crashes a feast held by the sea giant Aegir, attended by nearly every major god and goddess in the pantheon. And one by one, he insults every single one of them. Not with baseless cruelty, but by dragging their own secrets and hypocrisies into the light in front of everyone. He accuses Odin of practicing Seitha, a form of magic considered shamefully unmanly for a god to perform. He accuses Freyr of having slept with every god and elf in the hall. He reminds Njord of the humiliating way giants once used him. He calls out Idun for embracing her own brother's killer. The other gods try to shout him down, threaten him, even attack him. And each time, Loki simply answers with another truth they'd rather not hear. This is the moment the movies could never adapt, because there's no charming redemption arc hiding inside it. This is Loki holding up a mirror to the entire pantheon of Asgard and forcing them to see every hypocrisy they've spent centuries pretending didn't exist. He isn't lying about a single one of them. That's what makes it unforgivable. It's only when Thor arrives, hammer raised, threatening to crush his skull, that Loki finally leaves. But the poem doesn't end with punishment. It ends with a warning. Loki tells them this isn't over, and he's right. Which Loki do you prefer? The trickster who exposed the gods' own hypocrisy, or the god who was about to prove them right for fearing him? Tell me in the comments. Everything up to this point, the wall, the horse, the hammer, the insults, could still technically be undone. What comes next cannot. Balder was the most beloved god in all of Asgard, so beloved that his mother, Frigg, went to every creature, every plant, every stone in existence, and made each one swear a sacred oath, never to cause her son harm. Every single thing in creation swore, except one. A small, unassuming sprig of mistletoe, overlooked because it seemed too young and too harmless to matter. Loki found out, and out of pure envy, not tragedy, not some twisted sense of justice for his bound children or his humiliation at the feast, envy, he carved the mistletoe into a dart, or in some versions a spear. He placed it in the hands of Hertha, Balder's own blind brother, who'd been left out of the game the other gods were playing, throwing harmless objects at Balder just to watch them bounce off him. Loki guided Hertha's aim, and the mistletoe struck true. Balder fell dead in front of the entire pantheon. This is the act the movies never show you, not a misunderstood villain lashing out in grief. A calculated killing, engineered around a mother's desperate love, turned into the one gap in the world's protection. And this single act didn't just end one god's life. According to the prophecy, it set Ragnarok itself irreversibly into motion. For this, the gods didn't simply banish Loki. They hunted him down after he fled and hid as a salmon in a waterfall, caught him, and dragged him to a cave deep beneath the earth. There, the myths describe a punishment almost too cruel to translate cleanly. The gods transformed one of Loki's own sons into a wolf, which then tore his brother apart. And from that son's entrails, the gods forged the chains that would bind Loki to 3 stones for the rest of time. Above his face, they placed a serpent, positioned so its venom would fall drop by drop onto his skin without pause forever. His wife, Sigyn, stayed at his side, holding a bowl to catch the poison as it fell. But every time she leaves to empty it, the venom lands directly on him, and Loki's convulsions of pain are said, in the myths, to be the actual cause of earthquakes felt across Midgard. He remains there, bound, waiting, not for forgiveness. There isn't any coming. He waits for Ragnarok, the day prophesied for his chains to finally break. When Ragnarok finally arrives, Loki doesn't beg for a place among the gods who chained him. He captains the ship Naglfar, built from the untrimmed nails of the dead, sailing at the head of an army of giants and monsters to Vigritha, the final battlefield. There, prophecy finally collides with everything that came before it. Loki faces Heimdall, the ever-watchful guardian who first accused him of Balder's murder, and the two kill each other in single combat. Fenrir, the son the gods imprisoned out of fear, devours Odin whole, exactly as foretold. Jörmungandr, cast into the sea to be forgotten, rises to kill Thor and is killed by him in return. Every fear that drove the gods to bind Loki's children, to chain Loki himself, to silence the truths he spoke at that feast, comes true anyway. The prophecy they tried to prevent by force is the exact prophecy their force brings to life. Even the earliest comics, back in 1962, painted Loki as something far more sinister than Tom Hiddleston's magnetic charm. What you've seen on screen is a version built to be loved, not feared. The real Loki was never seeking his family's approval. Every wonder he ever built for the gods, Sleipnir, Mjolnir, the wall around Asgard itself, was also a wound he was keeping count of. He was always the beginning of the end. Which Loki do you prefer? The Marvel hero looking for redemption, or the mythological force of chaos who paid off every grievance in full? Tell me in the comments.